So let's talk about the society, the Egyptian society during the Roman period. Well, in the Hellenistic period, private land ownership was introduced, and the Romans encouraged this. They wanted people to be landowners, stakeholders. Native Egyptians tended to work on other people's estates rather than being landowners themselves. Now, Egypt supported the dole, which was back in Rome, and the dole was created in 509 BCE. It was free and subsidised grain ration to citizens who were aged over 14 years of age. Now, when Octavian became Augustus Caesar, he put a cap on how many Roman citizens could actually get the dole, and he capped it off at 200,000. So between 20 and 25% of the Roman population got a free grain ration. So the Romans needed to import grain all the time, and Egypt was going to be the breadbasket of Rome. In 193 BCE, the grain laws included olive oil and wine and also pork rations. So if you can imagine, 200,000 people are getting all of these commodities free. So from sort of 30 BCE, the Romans were relying on Egypt to provide that grain ration in Rome, and it did for many years. That's why they cleared the canals, to make agriculture more efficient. They didn't do it to help the local population. The tax system in Egypt during that time, under Roman rule, favoured the private landowner who paid less taxes. If you was engaged in manufacture, trade or commerce, then you got tax breaks. Land tenants, so people who rented from estates, had to pay rents and taxes. Now, just going back to Roman citizenship again, there was another avenue that you could gain Roman citizenship. And that's if you paid your poll tax. There was a poll tax once a year which every citizen had to pay. If you paid your poll tax, native Egyptians could go into the Roman army. Not as nice, handsome soldiers with all the shields and armour and that sort of thing. They would go in as auxiliaries. If you did your period of service, when you came out, you was automatically became a Roman citizen. So that was one way a native Egyptian could become a Roman citizen, but it was only if you paid all your poll tax. So let's say you were behind with your poll tax by 3 months, and then the following year you were 6 months behind. You could owe a year's poll tax when the next one was due, and that would not qualify you for military service or Roman citizenship. So the population during Roman Egypt is Roman, of course. They don't pay any taxes. So you can imagine merchants and entrepreneurs, Roman merchants and entrepreneurs headed to Egypt. This is tax-free. Go in there, trade. We don't have to pay taxes, just port fees, that's it. Then you have the Hellenistic Greeks who migrated into Egypt after Alexander the Great liberated Egypt from the Persians. So they're there. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations of Hellenistic Greeks. You had the Jews who came in from Judea, because remember, we had a look at the history of Judea and Syria. They've had thousands of years of conflicts. So if you wanted peace of mind, you headed to the new city, which was being built by Ptolemy I. Fresh start, fresh opportunity, and maybe peace. Get away from this warfare. So that's what attracted migration of Jews. And really, Semitic Hebrews have been migrating into Egypt when their homeland had troubled times, from the sort of Middle Kingdom onwards. The punishments. All Romans were exempt from punishment, except from fines or confiscation of property. If you're a Greek and you broke the laws, like stealing, beating other people up, intimidation, then you could be birched with a rod. But native Egyptians didn't have that luxury. If they were caught doing that sort of thing, then they were whipped. So you definitely got this this discrimination against the native Egyptians. Couldn't they look around and see what these amazing ancient people had actually done? They built the pyramids, they built the temples. They were amazing people that were being ignored for their talents, because to be able to successfully build those projects, there had to be great managers, great administrators, and they're wasting all that pool of skills by discriminating against them. Shame on you, Romans. So, during the during the late period, the Egyptians tell us that the Persians were cruel. During the Ptolemaic period, I don't think they were much better off, because all the Greeks wanted to do was to get resources so they could fight. And look at all the wars they had. Everything went into their war machine. And during the Roman period in Egypt, they're not really benefiting anyway. It's the Hellenistic Greeks, the minority Greeks, who are being promoted by the Romans. So the poor native Egyptian, what advantages have they got? Well, at least they're living in a peaceful society, so no invading armies coming into their country. So they do have security. They are producing food. Egypt's a very fertile country. Most of that food goes to Rome to feed the dole people, but they seem to have enough food in Egypt. There's no records of famines or low floods during the Roman period. In comparison to, say, the Middle East, which has got open borders, there's always a threat of invading armies crossing those borders. Look at Syria and Judea. I couldn't imagine living in those landscapes. They're so vulnerable to large armies infiltrating that landscape. You've got no natural protection. Whereas in Egypt, you've got the Mediterranean Sea at the top, 2 deserts either side, and Central Africa at the bottom. So the borders are very easy to defend, and you have that peace and security. So that's all the ancient Egyptians have got during the Roman period, is peace and security. Okay, sorry, I get a bit passionate. I have this love-hate relationship with the Romans. I love the Romans because they preempted the EU, and I've always been about integration, understanding your neighbour, tolerance, that sort of thing, and which is what their empire did. It joined everyone together. But I hate them because they were so brutal and cruel and greedy. They had this war machine which they had to keep paying, which was the Roman soldiers. And after 25 years service, they had to give those soldiers land as a pension. So there was always this pressure to extend their frontiers, to get new land, to get new silver, to pay for the war machine. Anyway, so that's Roman Egypt. If you like the content, please press your subscribe button, thumbs up, and please leave any comments. And I'll see you real soon. Bye for now.